Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to a first thoughts, impressions, and build of a new frame. I want to give a shout out to my friend Jared Hardy. He sent me this frame. He got a couple and he sent me one of them to fly and test out. Definitely want to thank him for that. Appreciate it, bro. Today we are going to be discussing and building and reviewing the Rebel Ruxus V2. This is Rebel Mini Quad's new version of the Ruxus. The first version did not look like this at all. This is quite a bit different. There's some definitely design choices that they did that are pretty solid. We're going to explain some of the things that it looks like they did. I'm going to go through a build guide with you guys. In the next video, I'll show you it flying, and I'll tell you my final thoughts on the frame. Let's take a look at a couple of things of the frame. First off, we've got the arms. The arms are very skinny. They're also very thick though, if you look at them as far as height is concerned. The arms are very tall, as I was discussing. We're going to measure it. Discussing, not disgusting. They're 8. These are like 8 millimeters tall in height. But they're only 5 millimeters in width. It's a pretty thick arm, pretty stout. Of course, it's also very thin. A couple other things that they did was each arm is has by 2 bolts. They intersect in the very middle of the frame. They've got a battery strap for the bottom holes, or slots for the battery strap. They've got a top plate. By the way, Chase, I just want to tell you something. For everybody who ever tries to do a honeycomb pattern in their top plate, this is how you do it. That's how you do it. I'm going to rag on a frame that I saw. I saw pictures of it online. Looked like junk. They tried to do a honeycomb pattern and it was just not well thought out at all. That frame is something that you use to floss your teeth with. Horrible. Horrible, 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 horrible. I mean, they just looked terrible. And it was structurally terrible as well. If you look at this top plate, you can actually see that none of the holes, the honeycomb holes that they made, none of them broke through the carbon. They were spaced out properly so that they actually added... What the heck happened? So anyway, this is how you do a honeycomb patterned and carbon fiber correctly. Good job, man. Good job. I really like the carbon fiber. The quality of the carbon fiber seems to be pretty good. I like how it only has 3 holes. They didn't mess with the structural integrity right here by adding a 4th hole. The way they have positioned and cut the circles or half circles shapes inside of these carbon fiber plates is actually good. It's sound. It doesn't take away structurally, even though it takes away some of the weight, which is really hard to do. A lot of people will sacrifice, they'll put holes in a frame and it will just sacrifice the structural integrity. Floss. Like the honeycomb pattern that I was telling you about earlier. One thing I will say that I don't like about this frame is the hardware. Titanium hardware. I don't care how ugly it looks. I get black hardware might look a little better than titanium hardware. But titanium's the only way to go. Titanium hardware is the only way to go for mini quad frames. It's lighter and it's more durable. So you can't beat that. But let's go ahead and start the build process. I'm going to be swapping parts from another build over to this build. Now these parts are basically brand new. I flew them once. I didn't care for the frame, so I'm just going to be swapping it over to this frame, which is what I have been waiting for a while. So let's go ahead and get started with the simple process of just CAing the arms. You don't have to file anything down on these arms. You can just go ahead and CA them straight away. So we're going to get started with that. For this, you're going to need a Q-tip and some electrical tape. And of course some CA. This is how I like to do it. We're going to cut a little piece of tape off, a little piece of electrical tape. We're going to wrap it around the tip of your Q-tip. And we're going to just put a bit of CA on here. We're going to start CAing the arms. You want to make sure you get a nice, good, even, clean coat on these arms. Now you can see that all the arms and all the other components that are carbon fiber have been CA'd. Now it's time to simply put it together. Now I am going to be using some different hardware. This is going to be the bottom plate, and this is going to be the plate below that attaches to the battery strap. Now, if you look at the pictures, the pointy parts go facing outwards towards the ground. The battery strap holes need to be on the side. And then the circular portion right here needs to be going towards the front of the quad. These bolts I am going to use. This is going to be for the controller stack, so it's not going to matter as much as far as being titanium. That will go on the inside hole. And there we go, we have one arm. Get the other hardware out. There are these flat nuts like that. These are going to go on the center stack. And then the black standoffs go on the outside. Go ahead. Now the back ones is going to also have these three pointing towards the ground. It's like if you were going backwards, you would hit that before you hit the motor. So if you can tell, the inside is going to have the flat, curvy edges. There you have it. The arms are now attached. This is the old frame that I have that I flew once, and I'll be taking this bolt, revolt, and motors. These are the RaceFlight Warp 8 2308 2600 kV motors, and I'm going to be taking all these components and putting them on the Ruxus. Something I'm going to have to do is cut off the front pads of the bolts here to get it to fit in the Ruxus. As I said, this is the old frame that I'm taking the components off of, but I'm just going to cut the front two pads, so the positive and the negative on this side on the outer edges. This is going to allow me to fit the bolt to the Ruxus, and then I'm just going to swap the motors right over. But I do have to use the motor screws that came provided with the Ruxus because the ones that come with these motors don't fit the Ruxus frame. Alright, so now you can see though the edges are cut off the bolt. I have a bunch of friends who've done this with this frame, and it's never worked poorly for them, so it should be fine for me too. But let's hope I didn't break a bolt. That would suck. Well, I'm going to skip ahead. We're going to go from this to this. Here we go. Motors are on there. The RaceFlight motors are on there. The bolt's on there. The revolt's on there. All I did was just take the motors off and swap everything over to here. So we're all good to go. And now it's just a matter of putting everything in. I already had the receiver and stuff set up on the revolt because I had flown it before. Then I have to wire my VTX to the board so I can get power to that. And then it's just a matter of putting the camera in and then, yeah, getting ready to set it up. Oh, we're putting a GoPro mount on there too, so I do have to do that. But so far it's been like a super easy build, in part because I had already done the bolt and revolt and motor stuff, and I just swapped it over. But also, one thing to note, I used different hardware for the motors. I used titanium hardware again instead of using the steel it came with. Also, I use Loctite on my motors. I always do that. I've done that since like the beginning because I did lose a motor before, and it sucks when a motor gets flung off your quad. and you break stuff. That's what happens every time. It usually catches your ESCs on fire. So I use Loctite, and I also already tightened down these standoffs, the nuts down here, so that everything on the stack is tight. So let's go ahead and put the capacitors in. Now we're gonna tin up these pads. There was one thing that I forgot to do, and I forgot to solder up the VTX connection cable to 5 volts. I'm using the TBS Unify Pro V2, so I need to run 5 volts off the Revolt to get that. And I got to figure out which pad it is I'm going to use. I could do it directly from the bolt, but I like to run it through the Revolt. This is the way I'm used to doing it. Alright, now I got the connector for the VTX soldered up. I'm going to solder up my cap, and I'm going to solder up my run cam. I am going to put the cap on the inside. Always make sure power is going to power and ground to ground, because otherwise these caps explode. So I'm just going to wire it to where I've been wiring everything else right there. These are the pads I like to use. Let's see. Nose cone will be right about there, so we'll chop this off. Clippers. Chop it off right about there. I always like to leave a little extra length with these if you ever have to switch it over to another build. Solder those 2 wires together. Sorry if that's out of focus. And I'm just gonna close the heat shrink. There we go. Now that's ready. Still get your OSD, which is pretty cool. I like that. I'm gonna use this thing that I got from Pyro Flip RC. Gonna just use this as a mounting bracket. And I use these screws, lock nuts to hold it down. Surely you don't have to use lock nuts, but in this case I will. Go ahead and put some sticky tape on this side. And we'll get another piece of sticky tape for the TBS Unify Pro V2. One of my all-time favorite VTXs. We're going to use a zip tie to hold that capacitor down. And keep everything nice and tidy. Now we can put the pod on. Cool. There we go, the nose cone is in. Now we can put these back on there. Put the standoffs back on the front. this little OSD connector. There we have it, and we have the nose cone installed. Now we just have to install the tail piece. GoPro mount is very interesting. It's basically a Creative Dex GoPro mount with a specific with a set of standoffs in the bottom of it. The design, gosh, the thing with 3D printed parts is it can be a pain to fit. Which means it's a slow process. So now that is attached. We just got to tighten it down. And here we have it. Just about done. Tighten all the bolts down. Hey, thanks for watching my video. I really appreciate it. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked the video. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos. And please click that notification button so that you can get notified every time I post a new video. Catch you guys in the next one.